All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Jags Talk Plus. I'm all Jags swagged out here, ready for the weekend with the Jags taking on Miami Dolphins, looking at hoping the Jags take out the Fins. So I am pumped, ready for this football season to continue to be kicked off. Last night we saw the Ravens play against the Chiefs, and by a literal toe, man, Baltimore Ravens come up short. I was pretty bummed about that too. I had a little bit of nice bet on there, hoping them guys would pull it off, at least get it within the point spread. And unfortunately, by a toe, I missed. But hey, look, welcome to Jags Talk Plus. My name is Shannon, big Jags fan. If you haven't, check out the introduction video. Tells you about the goal and purpose of this podcast and a little bit about myself. But hey, listen, I just want to basically take this first episode to talk about a little bit refresh. I'm sure you've been told multiple times as a Jags fan what happened in the end of last year. But what I want to do is in the beginning just kind of look at and catch us up at the end of last season, how it happened, free agency. I want to take a peek at that briefly, at the draft as well, and then just settle on a 53-man roster where the Jags settled with that here as of just last week when they cut the final roster down to 53. So we're going to look at that for just a brief moment. And then we're going to continue to move forward with other things I'd like to talk about. This is the first video that's going to have to be recorded as I continue to wait for the verification to go live. And then going forward from here, starting this Monday coming up, I should be verified and able to go live on that Monday. And then hopefully the content that we have on that'll be September the 9th. Hopefully there'll be some questions that's come in over the weekend, maybe questions on my opinions on this podcast as well. And again, your questions will drive this content as well as content that I bring to the table that I'd like to talk about. So anyway, thanks for being here. Thanks for being a part of this. Again, as I said, this is a hobby of mine. We'll continue to grow here, specifically in graphic designs and a lot of other things that I have goals for. But again, the goal is to just have a hobby to talk about the Jags it primarily, and then across the NFL and other teams and questions that you yourself, excuse me, may have, and give my opinions on them as well. Okay, so we all know last year we were rocking it. We were 8-3 as Jags continued to impress. Trevor was playing his best football on his rise to be one of the top ones in the league. Injuries began to take a toll on Trevor and began to take a toll on our team. And our team, of course, we talk about injuries not being excuses, but they are a fact. And from that moment on, the team began to struggle, couldn't win anything down the stretch. I would have liked to have seen us not run with Trevor in the Cleveland Browns game last year. I would have liked to see him go ahead and sit him for a couple games, let him get his health back to a place for that end push, because we definitely, in my opinion, would have at least won one more game down the stretch, which would have got us the division. But be that as it may, that did not happen. And so, we go from 8-3 to finishing the season 9-8. Very disappointing finish to the season. It was the biggest collapse, in my opinion, of our franchise. Now looking at 30 years now in the NFL. So was very, very disappointed. However, if we just focus on that, we would be bummed completely. But we have a quarterback. We have a great coach. We have pieces in place that we haven't had as a Jags fan in a very long time. We have suffered and suffered and suffered. We have been doormats in the NFL for a long time, and the tide is turning because some of the players and the coaches that we have in place. So I'm excited as we go forward for this season. And really, if you just took out what happened towards the end of last year and begin to just kind of map and see what was happening with our team, specifically how Trevor played in the Cincinnati Bengals game, and even how when we went to Houston Texans and beat them there, you could see the trajectory of Trevor was pointing up. And this team's going to go as far as our quarterback goes. So as bad as it was to end that season, there's a lot of positives to take away from it. I think that's why we have excitement going into this year. Listen, in free agency, I was happy to see us bring in Eric Armstead, who is a beast from San Fran. Now, listen, yes, he's been around for a long time, and he's an older player, but he's still going to bring something to the table with his ability, but also being there in big games, knowing what it takes to win, having that veteran presence is going to be huge. And so you bring him into the mix with Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines Allen and Devon Hamilton and Foye Oluokun. I mean, we got a very good defense, and now you're adding what I believe, which is going to be the biggest and deepest part of our team, is our defensive line. So with free agency, you brought in Armstead, you brought in Savage, who's I think is going to be definitely an upgrade of where we were at when it comes to playing nickel. And then you bring in Darby from Philadelphia, who's a good cornerback. He's a veteran. And so, if he can stay healthy, he's going to be across the side from Tyson Campbell, who we know just got paid. And Tyson is a very good cornerback who I think is primed to take the next step. And then, of course, you look at the offensive side. We bring in Gabe Davis, who really he's a very sneaky, fast receiver. We've seen what he was able to do in Buffalo and get behind the defenses. And it's not like he's a screamer, like he can fly, but he has the speed and this craftiness to get deep. And so I'm excited about him. And then we, want to look at the draft and talk about Brian Thomas Jr., who has flashed in preseason and shown what I tell you, if he turns into what his ability will allow, this guy could be just a superstar. And then we got Kirk, who is healthy, to come into the fold and be there as a veteran presence for Brian Thomas Jr. to kind of acclimate himself to the NFL. Mason Smith, that DT from LSU, man, I am pumped about him. If you've seen him at all, he is a massive, massive guy, and the other Jefferson from LSU, his counterpart, who I don't think is at the place where Mason Smith is as far as talent. He's a big dude too, though. And so you got Mason Smith, who's been pushing the pocket around. I'm really excited to see what he does in live action as well. And so, man, I'm just pumped about some of the draft picks that we've gotten. I think, hey, listen, I was one of the ones who doubted Balky. Still, because of the trauma of being a Jag fan for many, many years in the past, I still am just continuing to hold on and have him, Balky, continue to give evidence that he is picking well, but he's done well, and we got to give him the credit. And I'm pretty pumped to see that. And so we've done well, what I think in the draft for the last few times that we've been able to pick because these draft picks have actually stayed around. And then when we get to the 53-man roster here, it's interesting because I know that I was a little, not concerned. I was a little, surprised a little bit by Christian Braswell being released. But at the same time, we know that if we draft well, we're going to have to let players go that we at one time thought were good players, but we measured that against players of lesser ability. And so if we draft well, and we begin to supplement through the draft and get better and deeper throughout the course of building this team, then we're going to have players like Christian Braswell, who's a good player, but not make the team because we've just gotten that much better. So when we settle about the 53-man roster here, I don't think there was any major surprises. I think we landed exactly where we should have landed. I think everybody that was kept was, pretty much who all of, everyone around the media there in Jacksonville and everyone across the board probably thought who was going to make the team made it. And so, it was tough to see Tyler Shatley go for all that he's done as the longevity of being kind of the Swiss Army knife across the offensive line. But hey, listen, we know he was going to retire after this year anyway. And so it's good to kind of see and just thank him, for his time and effort and ability that he gave us. But, what we learned is that, we are going to continue to grow as a team. And although those people like Tyler Shatley are close to, to our hearts because we've had them part of the Jags family for a while, to see them leave, yeah, it's kind of like, oh man, it's tough to see someone like that go, but they're going to leave at time. But also, it's kind of like, hey, we salute you. Thank you for, being that Swiss Army knife and being a staple on the offensive line that really took a while to get built. And we'll talk about that as we go forward. So, kind of just wanted to give a quick rundown from the end of the season to where we are at now. I don't have anything else really to say about the roster with the 53 that's kept there. I think that I think that I guess the only other thing we could talk about for just a moment was Elijah Cooks and Tim Jones. Were we going to keep which receiver were we going to keep? Well, we understand and we have seen throughout the course of the last couple of years that Elijah Cooks is a good receiver, but he is not as strong on special teams as evidence of them why they kept Tim Jones. Tim Jones is a special teams guru. He is really good at what he does there, and more you can. This is just a great example of the more you can do, the more it helps you to stick around the 53. So hey, listen, Elijah Cooks is around. He's not gone, but when it comes down to the ability, pass catcher and special teams, they weigh those out, and that's why I guess there could have been the people were wondering what those two, which one was going to make it. But I agree that you want the best special team, especially now with special teams and the way the kickoff is. We really don't know what to expect, although we've seen a little bit of it. So you want to keep the best 53 that you can, and then when it comes down to receivers that are about the same of what they've been able to accomplish receiving, then it goes to, hey, then it comes down to what else can this player do for us and fill other voids that we might have, which comes down to special teams. So that's kind of my rundown from the disappointing end of last season to where we are at through free agency draft and 53 man roster. So yeah, I think, so here we are, the 2024 Jags. What are the strengths and weaknesses of our team? What are some thoughts about, where we think we might be strong at and areas that we think we might have difficulties, or I should say weaknesses at? And I'll just start with the positive first. I think that the first strength we have, and this is not players, this is coach. I really am a believer in Doug Peterson. Listen, I don't give a rip about the play calling. I mean, sure, play calling has a lot to do with what's going on the field. Absolutely, it does. But so does execution, which comes down to the players. So there's a balance there of calling plays that fit your players, and the players have to execute. So I know there's been kind of, hey, who's going to call the plays? I really do believe Doug when he says, and he just did his, just this recent news conference he had where he said basically him and press are kind of the same person when it comes to calling plays, and so I really do think that if there's not a major difference in play A or play B that Doug might call. I think they really do. Doug does feel like they have a lot in common, and that the plays would not be different from each other that much. So I don't think it's a matter of like play calls. You say, well, Shannon, play call was our issue last year. No, it wasn't. Our issues last year were not being able to run the football, and because of that dictated some of what play calling had to be and not to be. We couldn't even freaking run and get a 1 yard. I mean, there were times we were on the goal line 1 yard out and we're trying to run screens or we're trying to do something else besides pound it in there because we couldn't freaking run the ball. And so at some point you get to where you realize you can't run the ball. And so your play calling then has to change to where you do screens or other quick passes that are kind of like runs to get some space out there. But when you can't run the ball, you have to change your play calling. So I think a lot of the play calling that took place that people kind of, even myself was like, I hate that play. But I understood the reason why they were calling is because they couldn't run the ball. And so it dictated, how the plays were called. I think you're going to get back here this year to see play calling the way it was in 2022 when we had some more down the field stuff. And I do think we're going to be able to run the ball better, and I do think that that impacts the way the game's play called. The game is called when it comes to play calling. So back to the strengths. I think our coaching staff is a strength. I'm really excited to see what Ryan Nielsen brings to the table as our new defensive coordinator. His attack style and the way it seems like he speaks to the players, and you can see the way that he kind of exudes this teaching aspect of defense to the players. I think is going to do nothing but help Trayvon Walker as he continues to continue to become more of a well-rounded rusher. And I think we've seen pieces of that, which have been really evident in even his strong preseason play. So I think that we have some great strength there with Ryan Nielsen coming in. I think our defensive line, I mentioned this earlier, is just going to be, if stay healthy, going to be a beast. We forget about Devon Hamilton and how much he was coming on before he had the back injury that really affected him last year. But he seems to be back on target to being the type of player that he can be. He's a disrupting big man. And so you put him beside a Mason Smith and an Eric Armstead and Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines Allen. Obviously, they all can't be on. But my point is that you have that type of man like power and that type of stature in the D line. I mean, that is going to be tough. And so I think that the defensive line, especially the way it seems like Ryan Nielsen wants to rotate them through to keep them a little bit more fresh, is going to be a strength of ours. So I'm really excited about that. I mean, look what Josh Hines Allen did last year, and that's with not even the type of D-line that we're going to have this year when it comes to the size and the ability to collapse the pocket. So I think that it's poised to be one of our strengths. I think that our defensive back is going to be good. I still want to see it, but I think it's going to be good. I think Andre Sisco is going to have a career year on interceptions. I think that Tyson Campbell is going to take another step towards being a corner that can hold his own on an island. And so I do think that Antonio Johnson will be an added, welcomed, defensive back in our defense. And I'm really anxious. Not anxious, I should say, but I'm really excited, and I guess anxious is the right word, because like when you're putting someone in there who has flashed like that with Antonio Johnson, and I'm not saying he's starting, I'm just saying like he's supposed to be someone who's going to be coming on. There is a little anxiety where what is he going to be when it's a repetitive thing that he's facing each and every game? Are you going to have consistency there or not? But I do think Andre Sisco is poised to have a strong year, and I think it's going to show in interceptions. I also think that our linebackers are great. I think that Foye Oluokan's been one of the top tacklers in the league. It's going to be interesting to see the shift here with him moving a little bit with this new defensive front, and what that's going to look like, and if that affects much when it comes to his ability to continue to put up those gaudy numbers with tackles. But I do think that that he's going to continue to do well. And let's see, what's Chad Muma going to bring to the table now that he's going to be, involved a lot more than he had in the past. And it seems like he flashed pretty good in preseason around the ball. And then, of course, Devin Lloyd has talent like crazy. It's just, can we get the other part of it together? So I think overall our biggest strength is our defensive line, and then we have things to build on when we talk about the linebackers and the defensive back. And I do think, again, that plays in our defensive backs will be even better if our defensive line is able to put the pressure on the QB. What is our weakness? I mean, it's the other line. It's the offensive line. I think that the internal part of our offensive line, and we've heard this talk about many different media outlets there in Jacksonville and other ones, that the that the offensive line is a concern just simply because we do not know what they have now since we brought in, but we do know what the problem has been. I don't think it showed us a glimpse in the last preseason game, but we were playing backups and against backups. Our starting line was playing against backups, and even third and fourth down the line that's probably not even be playing this weekend. So we got pushed. We were able to run the ball. But when we're playing against other top tier talent, what is that going to look like? So I do think Mitch Morse is an upgrade for our center. Absolutely. I'm concerned with the Brandon Sheriff and his age, but he's experienced and he's very savvy, and so he can absolutely hold his own. Although we've seen a couple whiffs in preseason that are concerning, but there's going to be times where they make their whiffs. I think Anton Harrison is phenomenal. I think that Cam, Cam is who Cam is on the left tackle. He's going to be consistent. He's going to be the edgy type of left tackle that we need. And then I think we have Walker Little behind him who is pushing him, and I think it's just going to make him better. I think Ezra Cleveland is going to be an upgrade to our left guard. He's able to really move with finesse, and he's got great agility and ability to be able to kind of move. And I know that's kind of what it seems like we are playing more of a zone, kind of a more of a running and moving out of space type of offensive line. But I'm concerned. We haven't seen it. So until we see it, I think it's a weakness, and it's one that we are able to get better at. I do think that with those five in place, with Cam, Ezra, Mitch, and then Brandon, and then Harrison, I do think that is a good five. Let's see how they work together on a regular basis, and then let's see how that internal part of the line holds up when we face against top tier defensive tackle talent. But I do think that is probably the weakness right now. If that turns out to be adequate, and I'm talking if it can just be good, like average, it doesn't need to be exceptional, but if it can be good, I think that we have the quarterback that can operate at a high level behind a good, decent line. If we can get to the end of the year and say that the line was okay, I think we're good. I think we're good to make a good push for the playoffs. So on the offensive line, that is my concern as far as weakness. Obviously, we know our skill positions on the offense is exceptional. I think Travis Etienne is a beast. I think Tank Bigsby is going to come on and be a great spellback for Travis, and possibly even be able to push for more time when we get closer to the goal line for him to get some of these extra TDs. So if you're looking for like a third or fourth running back on your fantasy league that might towards midway to the ends of the year start giving you a little bit of extra fantasy points, Tank Bigsby might be a steal, as I think will bring him towards those times where we're on the goal line. And then, so I think Christian Kirk is amazing. I think Gabe Davis is going to be interesting to add what he can bring to the table. But he's a good receiver. I think Brian Thomas Jr. has the chance to be a top talent wide receiver in an NFL, and could possibly be the number one that we've been looking for a long time. Obviously, we know what Evan Ingram is. He's a phenomenal tight end. So, I mean, we got an offense that should be able to put up some points if we can just give Trevor a little bit of time. And so that's why my weakness is offensive line. My strength, I would say, is D line. I'm hoping as you watch this, there's some questions you have that you're adding there that will drive content for the next podcast that I'll put together on that. But give me feedback and opinions on what you think I'm saying when it comes to some of these. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, maybe you think I'm an idiot. Just let me know. I got thick skin, but I'll handle it when it comes time to reply to it. Just make sure that you have thick skin as well to receive if it is an opinion that I don't hold to. But it does mean that we can respect and be kind and still handle it and move on as we move on. All right. So let me also just go ahead and talk about for a few moments about something that I think is really important. And I think it's you know something that we have to, as Jag fans, um, I think, understand that, and that is this: we have a very tough start to the season. Like, we have a very difficult start to the season when you talk about the teams that we're going to be playing. We do not have a cakewalk in the first few games. So what I'd like to do is just look a quick little glance at the schedule, and then what I want to do is look at, um, or talk about what would be a good win-loss number for our team in the first 4-5 games to handle in there. We got the Dolphins this coming up Sunday, which is obviously a high-powered offense, which is, obviously, and I'm going to talk about that game here in a little bit and give you my pick. So I won't stay long there. But you got the Dolphins, all right, on week 1. We have week 2, we got the Browns. Their defense is still good. I don't think they're going to have too much on offense. When we talk about, Deshaun Watson and his lack of being what he used to be when he was with the Texans, but they're still going to be a tough win because their defense is going to be good and they're a good team. We have, after that, the Buffalo Bills, and then we have the Houston Texans, and then we have the Colts, which Anthony Richardson has to show us if he is going to be a top-level quarterback. I don't think he is. I think he's going to be a good quarterback, but I don't think he's going to be one that matches the level of a Trevor Lawrence or C.J. Stroud. I could be wrong, and if I am, then hey, that wouldn't be the first time. But that's still going to be a difficult game just because it's a divisional game. So let's just look at those first 5 games. So you have the Dolphins at their house, all right, and then we have the Browns at our house, and then we have the Bills, and we have the Texans, and those are away as well. So in our first 4 games, we only have 1 home game. So I think if we could come out of those first 4 2-2, 500 would be, in my opinion, phenomenal. Do I think we can win them all? Absolutely. Do I think I could see us losing them all? Unfortunately, yes, because these are good teams. These are good teams. The most gettable one, in my opinion, in the first 4 games is the Browns. But so we have the Dolphins, Browns, Bills, and Texans and Colts in the first 5 games. And like I said, out of the first 4, 1 is a home game. So it's a tough start. It's a tough start. But I think, if we can come out of there 500, I think we'll all be pretty happy about that. If we come out of there losing every one of them, I think it's a concern. Although the schedule gets easier as we move forward, it's not the end of the world, but it's definitely not going to be cool. If we can, we come out of there 1-3, bad taste in our mouth, but we still can build on that. So, so let me talk about the Dolphins. I think that the Dolphins are not what they can be at the end of the year. They are banged up. There's some offensive line concerns. Is Jalen Ramsey going to play or not? If he does, he's definitely still talented enough to be a top cornerback in the league. The thought is here that now that it's gone this long, he may not play, and that would open the door for us to move the ball a little better. But they still have Tyreek Hill. They still have Waddle. They still have A-Chain and Mostart. So, I mean, they are a fast and they are a powerful offensive team. So we got to score points. We have to score points. I think we need to score 24 to 27 points to even have a chance to hold them. Maybe we get a couple stops along the way that lets us kind of be able to take advantage of an extra touchdown or 2 to get ahead of them. But it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be tough too because it's the first week of the season. They haven't really played a full game. They've done a little bit of preseason work, but when you're playing, 60 minutes, week 1 condition, all of that, getting back into the football feel, football endurance, all of that's going to come into play. And of course, yes, it happens on the Dolphins side as well. So that's what makes these week one games very tricky. Um, Also, the Dolphins have that new defensive coordinator where, get an idea of what he's going to do. I'm sure the coaches have looked at the Ravens defense and other ones in the past to get an idea, but you still can have wrinkles in there that will come into play. So I think that it's going to be a tough start, but if we could start out with a dub, that will go a long, long way. So I will say that I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick that the Dolphins win. Unfortunately, I think it's so fair and it's so even of a match, but I'm just leaning towards the home team. It's hard to play away, and I think, can I do that? I think the Jags can win. Absolutely. Would I be surprised if they do? Absolutely not. I think that they can go there. I wouldn't be surprised if they down there and they crushed them. But I want to see it before I start falling into the trap of colored glasses here again, because I'm such a big Jags fan and I know them so well from studying and reading that I know what kind of team we can be. So I know each and every week we could win whatever game we're up against. But until I start seeing what this defense is really going to be and how it's going to react and what does it really look like, and that D line that I think is such a strength, does it really show itself to be that? And is it becoming a dominant, a solid defense that we can count on week in and week out with consistency? Is the offensive line, are we going to be able to see that be a better offensive line? Are we going to be able to get some push and run the ball? So I just cannot find myself picking them without seeing some of these things in place. I would, again, not be surprised if they go there and they just smash the Dolphins. I think they are capable of doing that, and I hope that's what happens. But just to curb my enthusiasm and to just not fall outside of reality right now, I want to be able to see it before I start to push my chips in on the table with the Jags. But I do think they're a playoff team. I think we win 10, possibly 11 games. I think we get better as the year goes on. I think Trevor Lawrence takes that step, as long as he stays healthy, that he was moving and taking towards last year. I think that we're going to see some fireworks of an offense, and I think we're going to see some domination at times on our defense. And if all those things can come together, we're going to be a dangerous, dangerous team. So, listen, I just wanted to take this first episode to talk about those few things. I'm excited. We'll look at the rest of the schedule as we get to Monday. So when we look at Monday, I will, obviously have reactions about the game, either a disappointment or excitement. We'll talk about what went well, what didn't go well. We'll have talking points from what's going on within that. Hopefully, as you watch this video, you will put in some questions and some comments that we can use to drive the content as well. And again, remember, this is just a hobby of mine, man. I love this stuff. I am not a professional. I don't sit here to act like I know it all, but I do my research. I do my time of reading and consuming the content about Jags that educate me enough to make good opinions based on all of that put together. And then, of course, my gut as well of what I think is going on. So, hey, listen, I hope the Jags go down there and mop the floors with the Dolphins. I'd love to see another 62-7 beatdown when we sent them out of the playoffs back in '99. But bottom line is, go down there, get yourself a dub. And then we'll move forward as we continue to have a great time together as Jag fans here and NFL fans alike. Again, if you're not a Jags fan, you're welcome here. Ask questions. I've taken in enough information to learn about the NFL's other teams as well. Although that would be way more surface level than the Jags, I will still give my opinions. And again, let's treat each other Let's treat each other with respect. Let's make sure that we have some good conversation and help me drive this content. Again, this is a hobby. I'm excited about being able just to do this, to have an outlet, and let's just see where it goes. We're going to continue to build this podcast to where I'll be able to get a studio put together that has we can have some um, some fun with that as well. And so just stay tuned and just be a part of what's going on here. And yeah, looking forward to this weekend. Let's go down to Miami and get a dub. And then Monday we'll talk about all of the games that went on this weekend, some thoughts about that, and then yeah, you guys just have a good time. Let's go Jags! And hey, I'm rooting for your team as well, unless they're playing against the Jags. If they're playing against the Jags, I hope we beat you down and talk about it later. All right, thanks for being a part of Jags Talk Plus. Take care, everybody. Talk to you soon.